This lesson, In the Chips, simulates a market for computer chips, where your students are going to be playing the roles of buyers and sellers of computer chips. It focuses on the competitive nature of markets, and students will see that the prices in this activity comes from the interaction of buyers and sellers in the marketplace. It's not set by the teacher, it's not set by the consumers or the producers of the computer chips, but their interactions and their decisions as buyers and sellers of computer chips. To prepare your students for In the Chips, hand out a copy of the How to Play in the Chips worksheet to each student. Give them time to read the instructions silently while you hand out the pre-prepared buyer and seller cards, as well as a transaction record for each student.
Today we are going to participate in an activity called In the Chips, where you are going to simulate a market. And so you've all been given a role of buyer or seller, and you can see what your role is on the card in front of you. You'll notice that if you are a buyer, you have a green card, and if you're a seller, you have an orange card.
In the Chips requires some preparation on your part before you play the simulation with your students. You'll need to prepare the buyer and seller cards ahead of time, filling them out as explained in the teacher guide. Make sure you use 2 different colors of paper, and if possible, copy them on cardstock or laminate them so you can use them over and over again. Another thing you'll need to have ready for this activity is the tally sheet. You can project this onto a whiteboard or smartboard, or as we did, recreate the tally sheet on a flip chart.
Okay, so go ahead and take a look at your card, and also take a look at the score sheet that you have in front of you that looks like this. On top of the score sheet, you're going to circle whether you are a buyer or a seller. Write your name up there. Okay, now I'm just going to talk to the buyers for a minute, okay? Buyers, what kind of prices do we like? We like low prices. We like the lower the price, the better, right? So your card says something like this, if you're a buyer. You are authorized to buy 1 box of computer chips. Pay as little as possible. If you pay more than blank per box, you lose money. Okay, do not reveal the price. Record this price on the buyer card and on your student score sheet. So what kind of price do you want to try to get in an exchange? The lowest price possible. Any price lower than what's on your card. Buyers then, looking at your score sheet, which column do you want to be a greater number? The price on your card or your transaction price? The price on your card. You want the price on your card to be the higher price. So put a star above, only buyers, above price on card. Every time that you negotiate a transaction and the price on your card was higher than your transaction price, then for you buyers, we're going to call that a gain. And the difference between those 2 prices is what you'll put in your gain column, and we'll add those all up and call that your profit.
In this activity, we refer to the gains of the buyers as profit. Your textbook may refer to this as consumer surplus, and technically, that's the correct term. At this point in your semester, use whatever term your students are comfortable with.
Okay. Now, sellers, for you, your card says something like this. You have been authorized to sell 1 box of computer chips for as much as possible. If you accept less than blank, you lose money. So what kind of prices do sellers like? High prices. How high? The higher the better, right? So for sellers, I want you to put a star above which column would you want to be the higher number each time? Your transaction price. You guys are going to put a star above transaction price. Every time that your transaction price is higher than the price on your card, that's a gain for you. And we'll call that profit for you sellers. Okay, if you made a trade where your transaction price was lower, then what would the difference be called? A loss. That would go in your loss column. Okay, so now some procedures here. When I say go, the trading floor will be open. And this is the trading floor. And you're going to go try to make a trade. Buyers, you want to buy computer chips. And sellers, you want to sell computer chips. So buyers, who are you looking for? Sellers. And sellers, who are you looking for? Buyers. Okay, when you find a buyer, when a buyer finds a seller, there may be a situation where, let's say Daniel and Ashley are both trying to, are you a buyer or a seller? Elizabeth is a seller, and both of them are trying to buy from Elizabeth, and she says sold. And they both think that they just made a deal with her. How do they know who she transacted with? Don't trade cards. So they're going to shake hands. Okay, so they're going to shake hands, and that's how we know who she traded with. Okay, so then if she shakes hands with Daniel, we know that she traded with Daniel and not Ashley. Once you've completed this order, this is like a ticket for an order. Once you've completed this, it's done. So you're not going to use this card again. You're going to come up here and you're going to, if you're a seller, you're going to put your card face down, and I'm going to give you a new card, and you're going to tell me what price you traded for. What was your transaction price? Don't tell me what was on your card. Don't tell me what your gain or your loss was. Just tell me your transaction price, the price that you shook hands on. Okay? Everybody got that? And then you'll get a new card, and you're free to go make a trade with that new card. And Kathy will be up here recording your transactions. Okay? Buyers, after you've conducted a trade, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to record the information on your score sheet, and then you're going to come up here and you're going to get a new card. Okay? What are we playing for? We're going to play for candy, okay? So in the end, the balance on your score sheet.
Encourage students to make as many trades as possible in a given round. Remind them of the incentives. It's best to pick an incentive that everyone can work for, like small candies that they can buy with their profits. If you announce only one prize for the top buyer and the top seller, you run the risk of a wise buyer and seller colluding in an attempt to win that grand prize.
Okay, the market is open.
Play round 1 and watch to see that the students understand what is going on. It never fails that in the beginning you'll see a couple buyers with the same color cards haggling with each other before they realize that what they each need is a seller with a different color card. If necessary, designate round 1 as a practice round and then continue on. The timing for each round is going to depend on the dynamics and size of your class. You want to allow enough time for many transactions to take place so students can see a pattern on the tally sheet. In the first round, play long enough to get through the deck of cards once. Then play later rounds in the same amount of time.
Time. The market is closed. Market is closed. Return all your cards to the front of the room. If you did a trade and haven't reported that yet, report it to me now. Okay, I'm going to bring you a new card while you're calculating your total for round 1. Before we start round 2, I want you to notice our tally up here of all of the trades. Sellers, did you know that there was a buyer out there that paid $4.50? Did you find that person, Jerry?
No.
Buyers, did you know that there was a seller out there that was sold for $3.60, a few of them? Okay, is this helpful information? Any questions about round 1 before we get into round 2? Okay, the market is open.
During later rounds, as students learn about the market, transactions will happen very quickly and you'll see more transactions in the same amount of time. Be prepared to flip the deck of cards over and reuse them if necessary.
Buying 430, buying 430, 440, 450, $2. Deal. $2.
3, 2, 1, time. Okay, take this time to calculate your gains and losses, your total for round 2.
In between rounds, draw students' attention to the market tally sheet. One of the things markets do well is convey information. They may find that this information is helpful and decide not to waste time trying to get a really low price when they see that most of the trades are occurring above that.
This is kind of like information in the marketplace, right? In the first round, we saw a lot of searching for information, right? You didn't know what the computer boxes of computer chips would trade for. But in the second round, the trades happened a lot quicker because you had more information. So information definitely helped facilitate our trading. Okay, any questions before we start round 3? Y'all have new cards? Okay, the market is open. about that last round? Here's our data from the last round. You can see our tally.
It's getting much more competitive.
It's getting much more competitive. I'm glad you brought that up. Jerry, are you a buyer or a seller?
I'm a seller.
You're a seller. Who is your competition?
All the other sellers.
Other sellers in the room. Any other examples?
When you debrief this activity with your students, remember the big things you want to focus on. In this case, where do prices come from? Students saw that prices came from not the teacher, not buyers, not sellers, but the interaction of individual buyers and sellers in the marketplace. If your students learn this one lesson, that prices emerge from markets, then you've accomplished your goal and you can build on this in future lessons. While the idea of managing this activity may seem a little daunting, don't worry, it can be done, and it's possible to do it yourself without a student helper. You manage the deck of seller cards, exchanging them for the sellers when they report their transaction price to you, and along the way you're recording those transactions on the tally sheet. Across the room, but in your line of sight, set up the deck of buyer cards face down and tell the buyers to draw from the deck and place their used cards in a separate pile face up. Once the deck runs out, they can flip it over. If your class is large or that you find that you just need a little help, assign a student to keep the record on the tally sheet for you. It's going to feel a little chaotic, but that's okay. That means it's working. Warn your neighbors ahead of time. This activity tends to get loud. Better yet, invite them to play. Within the chips, it's the more the merrier.